Do Esther Hicks. Yeah, I can do Esther Hicks, but I cannot promise that I won't throw up in my mouth a little bit. She is sort of the poster child for this whole law of attraction, manifestation, create your own reality cult. I have no problem calling it a cult. When I did Esther Hicks in my book, I put her in the cult chapter, and at first I thought, oh, maybe that's too harsh, but after meeting more and more people who are into this toxic ideology, I have no problem calling it a cult. And in case you are not sure yourself, just come back in a couple of weeks and look at the comment section. So to talk about Esther Hicks, we first have to talk about Jerry Hicks, who was a comedian and a circus performer before he became an Amway distributor, and a very successful one at that. And part of the reason he became successful is that he sold a lot of supplemental materials that were basically books and tapes and so on that were by famous manifestation people like Napoleon Hill and Norman Vincent Peale and so on. So when he ran into Esther Hicks, who was at first his bookkeeper, he was married to a woman named Trish. He foisted all these books on Esther, and she gobbled them up and became indoctrinated. And then he divorced his wife, and he and Esther got together, and they became very successful as an Amway team. As sort of a side note, many people will know that Amway is in itself sort of a cult. It is a multi-level marketing scheme company, and I talked about it in a previous video called Culty Level Marketing, and there's a book about it on the subject if you're interested. It's called Amway, the Cult of Free Enterprise. At any rate, Esther and Jerry became very successful in their own Amway enterprise. They became multimillionaires, partly because they just used the Amway distribution channels that they already had been set up to sell their books, which they then began to produce their own supplemental materials about law of attraction and all that. And Esther learned channeling from a woman named Sheila Gillette, who channeled 10 entities that she called Theo collectively. And not to be outdone, Esther decided she wanted to channel 100 entities, and this included people like Buddha and Jesus. So Buddha and Jesus and these other 98 entities collectively called Abraham, they had wonderful teachings such as the fact that 9/11 victims brought the attack onto themselves. Slavery, the slaves brought that onto themselves, and that slavery was a good thing. She insisted that improved the lives of black people. She blamed the Holocaust victims very famously for the Holocaust. She blames grape victims for their plight, saying that only 1% of grapes are actually real grapes. The rest of them are ones that are invited. It goes on and on. She is totally 100% into the blame the victim thing, no holds barred, unapologetically. Oh yeah, AIDS victims have brought that disease upon themselves because they just don't like themselves. So that's the morally reprehensible aspect of this ideology, which I've talked about in other videos. I've also talked about how it is politically regressive because it aligns with the values of the far right and disregards structural inequality and so forth. It's completely apolitical, even going so far as to say that millionaires and billionaires completely deserve all of that money because they have thought correctly. They are really good at doing the manifestation thing. I've also talked about how this ideology is philosophically untenable. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. And I also want to, in this video, talk a little bit about how it is psychologically damaging. So one of the main core teachings of this toxic ideology is that they try to encourage you to avoid negative thoughts and negative emotions. First of all, let me just say flat out, there is no such thing as a negative emotion. All emotions are completely natural responses to what is happening to us. And furthermore, if you try to avoid negative emotions, you are likely to develop further neurosis and probably even physical illness. As far as negative thoughts go, that's also ridiculous. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts each day, most of which we cannot control in any way, shape, or form. It's perfectly natural just to have all kinds of thoughts, and trying to control them and monitor them and avoid the negative ones, whatever that means, that is a pathological recipe for disaster. Furthermore, who is keeping track of all these trillions and trillions of thoughts throughout the world and throughout the universe, and who's counting which ones are the bad ones, and how many get stacked up, and how many do you need to have that fatal car accident come your way because you've just thought too negatively, or that grape, or the abuse, or whatever it is that you're supposedly calling onto yourself. None of it makes any sense.